The U.S. Department of Energy is cleaning up the Oak Ridge Reservation of residual hazardous and radioactive contamination left over as a result of decades of nuclear energy research. Much of that work has been influenced by the Oak Ridge Site-Specific Advisory Board, a citizens panel that provides independent advice and recommendations on DOE's cleanup operations. You're welcome to attend the meetings and be part of this
Hello,
important work.
everyone. We'll start our meetings, March 11th. Hope everyone's doing well. Thank you for everyone online for being here. Got a good crowd in here too tonight. Do we have any comments from the federal and state agencies?
I do. So, first of all, good evening, everybody, and we're grateful to see everybody tonight. You're stuck with me. Melissa is online though for support, and Roger is out at the Waste Management Symposium in Phoenix. So we are now back on track with our monthly meetings. So that's a nice relief for everybody. I'm sure it is for me. So the Waste Management Symposium, I'm going to touch on that really quick because Dennis was originally going to produce or do our introduction and presentation tonight, but now we have Mike Vestal, and that's one of our two major conferences that EM attends annually. And that's where headquarters will usually unveil some big announcements. So hopefully we'll have some more news for you guys next time we meet up. And the top announcement tonight is that our recent land transfer to the Industrial Development Board for the city, we finished it last week and it's our largest one yet. It is the 627 acre parcel. It is self-sufficiency parcel 2. It's on the west end of town near ETTP. You've probably seen on the news a company called Orano has been making plans there. They plan to invest about $5 billion to build a new enrichment facility. And it's one of the largest investments ever in the state. We also hit a major milestone since our last meeting. So Isotech has officially reached the halfway point in their U-233 processing campaign. So that's our highest priority project at ORNL right now. And the removal of this inventory helps us avoid significant costs in the future and enable a major transformation in the ORNL Central Campus. We also have at last month's topics focused on public outreach. And in line with that, we're excited to host a media event at Y12 March 16th. We'll be taking reporters out to the Alpha 2 footprint to highlight the completion of the demolition project and any efforts underway that EM is transforming and modernizing the site. And at our last meeting, we announced our new assistant secretary for EM, Tim Walsh, was going to be visiting Oak Ridge at the end of February. Unfortunately, there were a few different conflicts, so that's being rescheduled for the spring, and we'll let you know once we have a new date. And also, finally, if anyone is interested, Eric was invited by City Council to participate in the work session for next Tuesday, March 17th at 6 p.m. It's going to be open to the public, and he'll be walking through some of our top priorities. And I also want to take a moment to introduce our new members. So we have, if you don't mind raising your hand so everybody can see you, we have Brandon Adcock. So Brandon is a security engineer with Coalition Inc. He has an associate's in information technology and several certifications related to his work, and he lives in Knoxville. Samantha Ashley is an elementary school teacher with Morgan County Schools. She recently completed her Master of Education in Instructional Leadership, and she lives in Bryceville. Then we have Kenneth Lewis, who retired in 2015 as a full-time instructor at the Thomas Edison State University, although he continued a part-time capacity until 2024. His career ranges from education to engineering, and he holds several advanced degrees, including a PhD in nuclear engineering, and he lives in Oak Ridge. And then we have Matthew Van Dalen. Matthew is retired in 2023 following a career as a military attorney in the U.S. Air Force. He also served as an adjunct professor at LMU Law School starting in 2023, where he continues as a part-time role, and he earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a JD. Matthew lives in Sunbright. And so I want to take a moment to tell everybody how thankful we are to have you here tonight and for your interest in our work. and the time that you're dedicating to serve here. We're always really impressed by the people that have volunteered their time to show up, and a commitment of your commitment to this community. And we've also been very impressed by the breadth of experience that we have in this room. And we are continuing to develop, in my opinion, the best board in the complex. But I'm looking forward to hearing everybody's input and involvement, so welcome. Also, really quickly, if you have a comment about the presentation or anything like that, you've probably seen this when you've come and visited. Raise your plaque like this and turn it so that Chris can see who is asking the question. All right, and with that, I'm going to hand it back over.
Great, thank you. Hey, Christoph.
No, I have no comments and no announcements.
All right, we got Sarah or Samantha, I'm sorry,
Samantha.
online.
She's looking to unmute herself.
Yeah, hey, took me a minute to find the unmute button, but yeah, I don't really have much update for this time, other than DOE has submitted a request to partially delete a portion of ETTP, and we are in the process of reviewing that right now.
Thank you. All right. I will turn it over to Michael Vestal. And before I do, if you guys, we're gonna, after, if you would, wait on questions until his presentation is over. We'll give time for any questions, and like Abby said, if you'll raise your placard, please. We'll go questions first in the room and then online. Just raise your hand online if you've got questions, and then we will go to public comment after that. Michael.
All right. Thank you. I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm Mike Vestal. I'm the Deputy Federal Project Director for the Environmental Management Disposal Facility. Dennis Mayton, he is the Federal Project Director for the Environmental Management Disposal Facility project, as well as Dennis is our project manager for the other on-site waste disposal facilities. And he couldn't be here tonight because he is also at the Waste Management Symposium out in Phoenix. And he normally gives you guys a presentation once a year to kind of update you on how we're doing on ensuring sufficiency of the waste disposal capacity at the Oak Ridge site. And I'm going through the presentation this afternoon, this evening with you all. I have gone through it a few times already today, so if I'm a little hoarse, it's because I've been practicing trying. Anyway. How do I make it go forward?
Should be able to
Just
click.
click.
Is it not? I have a long button.
I see a hand.
Yeah, that was me trying. There.
Right there we are. Okay. Anyway, DOE does have several landfills on the reservation that we operate. You know, we've done a lot of cleanup work in the past, but we still have a lot of cleanup work, deactivation, demolition work, soil cleanup that's left to do. Because of this, and this is our mission of cleanup, we have to continually evaluate whether or not we have enough capacity for all the waste that we're going to be generating. And we've got to get in front of it a lot because we got to make sure that we have enough time to get through all the regulatory process, the planning, getting the funding in place, getting the designs completed, as well as the construction of any type of landfill that we might need, or any more space that we might need, or expansions that we might need. So a lot of time is needed for that. And we, you know, although we've done a whole lot of cleanup already at ETTP, and we'll see a lot of things throughout this, we still have ORNL and Watch 12 left to go through, and a few mission things at ETTP. We have 3 operating sanitary landfills at the Oak Ridge Reservation that are permitted by the Tennessee Division of Solid Waste Management, landfills 4, 5, and 7. And we'll see those a little bit later in the presentation on an overview to see where those are located. We also have the Environmental Waste Management Facility, EMWMF, that takes CERCLA waste. And then after that, we've got landfill waste disposal facility that we're planning EMDF, Environmental Management Disposal Facility. The reason we're doing that is because EMWMF is 86% full right now. And we have to make sure, like we said, we've already started the planning process and the design process and working with the regulators on getting EMDF moving forward. Anyway, as we look at our waste preference of what we like to do when we go through the waste, the first thing we want to do is if we can divert the waste away from the landfills, we want to reduce, reuse, and recycle that waste. If we can't recycle or reuse the waste, then we want to look at whether or not does it meet the waste acceptance criteria for a sanitary waste. Can we send it to landfill 4 or 5 or 7? Then if it doesn't meet that waste acceptance criteria, we have to look and see if it meets our EMWMF, the CERCLA waste acceptance criteria, which takes low-level radiological waste or chemical contaminated waste. But if the levels are too high on that, or if it's a hazardous waste or a mixed hazardous waste, which is radiological and hazardous, then we have to look at some off-site treatment and disposal ideas. Landfill 4, for instance, is a landfill that was built in 1989. It was built with 35,000 cubic yards, but it's currently 54% full. It is made primarily for the sanitary waste that is classified. We got landfill 5 that was built in 1994. It is 2.2 million cubic yards in capacity. It's 55% full. And we've got landfill 7 that is a sanitary construction debris, construction demolition type waste that is 2.1 million cubic yards and is 43% full. It was built in 2001. Now, as you look at the amount of volume so far that's been disposed of from our cleanup projects, the majority of the volume has been going into our on-site landfills, the sanitary waste landfills, as well as EMWM. But when we look at the amount of radiological activity, the majority of our radiological activity is going off-site because of our meeting those waste acceptance criteria. Pay attention to this because it's real important to see this later on in the presentation of how much waste has been disposed of on-site versus off-site. You guys are familiar pretty much with the Oak Ridge Reservation. It's 30,000 acres. It's located southwest of the city of Oak Ridge. ETTP, which was the old K-25 site. The majority of our cleanup work has been done there. You've got ORNL, which is an Office of Science at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Science and research goes on there. And then you've got the Y-12 site, which is the National Nuclear Security Administration site. It's located in Bear Creek, and ORNL is primarily located in Bethel Valley and Melton Valley. This is a slide to show you where those landfills are located. If you look at EMDF, the proposed location of the future landfill, and EMWMF, both of those are in Bear Creek Valley. You look at our sanitary waste landfills 4, 5, and 7, they're in Bethel Valley, and the blue are the landfills that have already been filled up, closed landfills, sanitary waste landfills. Picture that you're looking at now shows ETTP K-25 before all the deactivation and demolition went forward. And then a picture at the bottom right shows after it. It's a great success story. As most of you have heard recently, there's been a lot of industries that are wanting to locate to the area, that have already located to the area, and some have even begun construction on the old K-25 ETTP site. It's part of what we're looking at is future energy, the nuclear renaissance they're calling, you know, for the nation. Our EMWMF landfill and our sanitary waste landfills have been key in making this success story possible. If you think back to the pie chart, if we had had to send all that volume of waste offsite, it would have greatly increased the schedule as well as the amount of funds, money, all the resources just to get rid of the waste. So we wouldn't have been as far along in the process at ETTP or at Y12 and ORNL if we didn't have EMWMF and if we didn't have those sanitary waste landfills on site to be able to get rid of our waste. So the having landfill space on site is key for us to be able to complete the mission that we have here of cleanup of the Oak Ridge Reservation at Y12 and at ORNL. Talk a little bit about EMWMF. It was built in 2002, so we're in the 24th year of its operation. It was built as 28 acres. The support area even takes up more acreage than that. You can see this is where the landfill itself is at. It was built with cell 1 from the right all the way through cell 6 to the left. You've got some capacity here for storing the contact water. You've got capacity here for storing the leachate wastewater. And then you've got the area that's needed to house the people that are working there. So it takes a lot of space for having the landfill. Anyway, the existing landfill was built with originally 2.2 million cubic yards. And then it was able to increase its capacity by 100,000 cubic yards to 2.3 million cubic yards. But it's 86% full. So we're running out of space pretty quickly. It's expected in the late 2020s to the early 2030s that landfill will be full. So we have to have another option on the table to dispose of waste by the late 2020s or early 2030s. This quick thing to think about as well is the contact water storage that you saw there. Those ponds could store up to 3 million gallons. The leachate storage is 212,000 gallons into the tanks. Currently, we generate about 13 million gallons of wastewater, contact water a year. Looking at the amount of waste we've been putting in the landfill for the last few fiscal years, fiscal year 23, we had 43,000 cubic yards, 45,000. Fiscal year 24, we had 13,000 cubic yards. And then fiscal year 25, we had 14,000 cubic yards. It's interesting to note that the Alpha 2 demolition project kicked off in 2025, the actual demolition work. So the majority of that 14,000 cubic yards was probably from Alpha 2. And if we look at, we don't have our numbers yet for FY26, but the majority of Alpha 2 came down in FY26. So we've got a lot that went in FY26 as well. This is just another graph to show you how quick the landfill is going up. This is at a 95% 95% upper confidence level of current generation rates of when we think that we will actually run out of space. And it's sometime, this chart shows it sometime between late 2027 to 2029 at the current rate. But we actually believe that we're slowing down now a little bit in the demolition work because we're concentrating pretty heavily on the deactivation work right now. And I'm not sure when the next Y12 building is supposed to come down, but there's a lot of deactivation work left to go in the next Y12 building. The next Y12 large facility, let's say. Anyway, this is another picture just to show the number of buildings. There's about 200 buildings between Y12 and ORNL that are left in the program to be deactivated and demolished. To the left, you got Bear Creek. That's all those buildings are, you see how crowded the area is in Bear Creek. Those buildings, most of the Watchwell buildings are a lot larger than the buildings in ORNL. So one thing, it'll take a little bit longer to do the deactivation work. Plus, it's going to be producing a lot more demolition waste once they come down. So it's an important that we have, once again, that we have the place to put that. In ORNL, we've got a lot of deactivation demolition work ongoing, but one thing we keep running into different things of higher activity, different radionuclides that we find. And a lot of our deactivation waste so far has been going offsite. But we hope to decontaminate the majority of the building to the point where most of the actual building demolition debris will go into the on-site landfill. So our permitted landfill, our focus right now is at Watchwell and ORNL. When doing deactivation, demolishing the building, like we said, the majority of the cost, the majority of the time is going into the deactivation work. We use another term of pre-demolition work. That's basically where they go into the building and get rid of as much contamination, as much of the waste as we can possibly get out of the buildings prior to demolition. Basically trying to leave just mainly the shell and the main structural components of the building, if we can get the rest of it out. One thing to notice as well is in 2023, we did complete an expansion of landfill 5, which added an additional 460,000 cubic yards of space to that as well. So that gives us a little bit more leeway, but remember, we have to meet that waste acceptance criteria. It can't be low level radiological waste and go into a sanitary waste landfill. It has to meet, each landfill has to have its waste acceptance criteria met before the waste can be placed in that landfill. Also, it's neat to note as well that EMWMF, the space that was there was approximately 2.3 million cubic yards, and EMDF should have about 2.2 million cubic yards once it is constructed. The ROD was signed by DOE, EPA, and TDEC back in 2022, which approved that remedy of putting EMDF in Bear Creek, where we showed that. We plan to have that landfill operational by 2029. That is our goal, 2029. Anyway, systems approach to waste disposal provides us multiple layers of protection. First of all, we got to think about before the landfill is designed or even anything, we have to look at different sites. So multiple sites were looked at for the EMDF landfill. So siting criteria was very, very important. Characterization of the site that we put in over 32 wells to help characterize the site prior to that site being fully chosen. The next thing is we got design and construction. You know, you got the engineering design, the EMDF and EMWMF are built, they're going to be built to hazardous waste landfill design, RCRA subpart C landfill design requirements. So those are the engineers, the construction, as it's being construction, there'll be a lot of quality analysis and quality control going on basically from the contractor, from DOE, to make sure that it gets constructed in accordance with the design, as well as to make sure that the materials meet the specifications that they're supposed to meet, that all the seams that are put into the landfill are tight like they're supposed to be, that the compaction of the clay below the landfill meets the requirements of compaction. So there's a lot going into making sure that we have designed and built the landfill to the performance standards that it needs. Then once the landfill is built, there's also performance assessments that are done under DOE regulations. We have to evaluate the performance before we get approval to even build it. And then once again, before we get to dispose of the waste.
Sorry.
Okay, once operation starts of the landfill, then you've got the waste acceptance criteria that has to be met before the waste can be placed in there. In order to show that it meets the waste acceptance criteria, We have a sampling and analysis plan. We have a waste handling plan that's reviewed by our regulators as well as DOE to make sure that we're handling the waste properly and that the waste meets the waste acceptance criteria. Then you've got the actual generator certification program and the wastewater management that we talked about before. One thing that's interesting to note about the new landfill is the new landfill, the landfill wastewater treatment facility is supposed to treat all of the wastewater, contact wastewater, as well as leachate coming from the landfill is supposed to go through the landfill wastewater treatment facility. It also to note that the CERCLA 5-year reviews will occur. DOE Order 458.1, which is RAD protection of the public and the environment, have to be met. And the active and institutional controls that we have and continual monitoring. There'll be the landfill wells will be put in as required and those will be monitored as required. So we look at DOE's regulatory approval, disposal authorization statements. Like we've mentioned before, they have to have an operational statement prior to waste disposal, but they also had to have an operational statement approved before it could go into being constructed. The DOE order is called 435.1 in case you guys need that for anything. As we look through the CERCLA process and we look at the different parts of the actual the phased construction approach for EMDF. The first site, early site preparation, we had an approval of it in 2023. The groundwater field demonstration, the RDR RAWP, was approved in 2023. Our support facilities and infrastructure is going to be submitted in July. The landfill wastewater treatment system, RDR RAWP. RDR is remedial design report, remedial action work plan, in case you guys need that. It will be submitted in March of 27, and the balance of construction, which is the actual construction of the landfill, that RDR RAWP will be submitted in April of 2027. So you see, that's when I was going through the slides, I'm like, oh, that's way out there. No, that's next year. That's a year from now. We expect to submit those last two key documents to the regulators to review. And as you can see, we're on, like I said before, we're on a very tight schedule. We're working well with our regulators to work through the schedule, as well as all the public comment review periods that we have. Anyway, give you just a little bit more information about the early site preparation. Started in August of 2023 and was completed in May of 2024. What that included was like the Hall Road and Bear Creek Road had to be rerouted to make room for where the landfill was going to be, to provide that. A support area for construction had to be developed with trailers and construction personnel and an equipment area, as well as the East Spoils area and the Morrow area development was part of that. Then we had the groundwater field demonstration, kicked off in February of 2024 and should be completed this April timeframe. The purpose of this was to determine what the ground level would be, groundwater level would be beneath the landfill once the landfill is in place. We needed this number to make sure that whenever we're doing the design of the construction of the landfill, that we meet the design requirements for a RCRA Subpart C landfill that's required. The next part was the support facilities infrastructure. We actually kicked this one off in January. What I say we kicked it off was because we had to remove some of the trees prior to what they call bat season being over. We're trying to stay ahead of the curve on anything. If we hadn't got the trees removed in January, February, March timeframe, then we would have to wait till the following October. So that would have thrown us behind on our schedule. So we're trying to be proactive on every aspect and every part of this project. The landfill wastewater treatment facility should begin in 2027. It's currently under design. as well as the support facilities and infrastructure, and the balance of construction, basically to include the first two cells of the landfill, should begin in 2028, and it's currently under design as well. One thing to mention too, is that the design of the landfill, the new landfill was supposed to be designed to have 4 cells, but it's going to be constructed in phases. Cell 1 and 2 will initially be constructed, and then as we need it, if we need cell 3, then that one will be constructed, and if we need cell 4, then that one will be constructed. So based on all the estimates, we're going to need that much, but just in case we don't want to spend money constructing a huge landfill if we end up not needing that extra capacity. So we're trying to be very intelligent, smart about it, making sure that we save the taxpayers money if we don't need that extra landfill space. Meetings with the public began in 2015. We've had multiple meetings with the public over the new landfill. Public comment period meeting was for the proposed plan occurred back in 2018, early 2019. The comment period was actually extended longer than the minimum required. Normally it's a 30-day comment period. That comment period was extended to 120 days. And all those comments and responses to the comments were included in the record of decision that was approved by DOE, EPA, and the state of Tennessee 2022. Some of the main concerns that we saw from the comments and both TDEC and the public were the groundwater levels, which the groundwater field demonstration helps alleviate those issues. Site characterization, the waste acceptance criteria for the new landfill, mercury disposal, and the discharge limits for the landfill wastewater treatment facility. We'll continue to have public meetings and public updates with the public, and as needed and as required. So now, are there any questions?
I have one, and it's really just to complete some of the information that you were saying. Did you mention that for the 3 sites that are operating now, over 200 buildings are scheduled to be demolished, decontaminated and demolished?
Yes.
Was that the right number?
Yes, that's approximate number, yes.
Wow, okay. And then the other thing is you mentioned that as the public and others reviewed some of the issues, there was a comment time period. Was it 100 days?
120.
120 days.
120 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the requirement was 30 days, but I think that because of all the comments and because of the high level of public involvement, that they extended that period to make sure that they got as many of the comments in as possible.
Anybody?
Do we have any other questions in the room? We'll
I
just
have-
raise your question.
And one, monitoring water levels, you mentioned that it's being done and it's about to be completed. Is it meeting expectations? I mean, are the levels staying where they thought they would, or are they higher or lower, or any of that data available yet?
I don't think the data is available yet, but it will be soon. I know that, talking with Dennis and some of the other project managers, that the groundwater level is still going down. It's not down as far as what they thought that it would get, but it's still going down. But we're in a situation now where we have to go ahead and start design based on where the levels are now. So as they're designing, even though the water levels are still dropping, it's just going to give us that much more of a buffer. That'll give us that much more of a buffer. So that's kind of how they're approaching that. We have, in order to stay on schedule to get the landfill ready in time, design has to start. They had to basically draw the line somewhere for their design of the landfills itself.
Okay.
That's basically design where the bottom of the landfill, the bottom of the waste would be at.
Melanie?
So are there remedial design reports that you're releasing in July of 26 to address the loss? Was there a lawsuit for that EMDF site?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Let me look back to see what, back. Trying to go back. There isn't.
20, was it?
RDR, let's see, July of 2026, we plan on issuing an RDR RAWP to be submitted. That's for the support facilities and infrastructure. So that'll be like,
So was there a lawsuit filed in July of 25?
I don't know the answer to that.
Like that it wasn't complying with federal laws and regulations or?
We can get back to you on that.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
We'll have to table that question. I think that would be a question Roger.
Yeah, that's a
could
Roger
probably answer.
answer. Yeah.
Any additional questions from the room on the presentation? Not online, let's see.
Yeah, this is Harold. I had a question about the impact of the nuclear renaissance that you just talked about. I know you've planned for Y12 and ORNL and the final cleanup of the ETTP. I wonder what the impact of the new companies coming to town that are going to have waste, water, sanitary and radiological waste as well. Have you thought about incorporating the requirements that they may have in your EMDF design and your sanitary landfills?
Those are would all be private companies, so we would not be taking from what I understand, we would not be taking any private company waste into our circular landfill or our sanitary waste landfill. Those landfills are strictly for DOE waste.
Okay. So what are they planning to do about their waste? You know, they're going to have it.
So I can somewhat answer this, but I'll have to get back to you on a full answer later. We also have two people online that I know can help support me with this. We have, well, we actually have three people online who can support me with this. We have Sarah, Emily, and Ann on, but, private industry is going to be regulated typically under NRC regulations. So their waste capacity and disposal would be under the NRC. We also have already had an instance in the past where, for example, we had Kairos come in and Kairos was wanting permission to dig a foundation and some pillars, and we said, okay, we got everything cleared with ourselves and TDEC and EPA. And they came across something called Orangeburg pipe. And Harold, I'm sure you know what that is.
Yeah.
But they came across Orangeburg pipe and they came to us and said, what do we do with this? So we came in, we had our rad technicians screen it, and the pipes were found clean, but there was some lead joinings and things like that. Well, we found a way for them to cleanly recycle and dispose of the lead pipes and other things like that. And then we took the Orangeburg pipe. So we're hoping that that'll help be a template that if they come across something that they need help with disposal of or something along those lines, that we could step in and help. But their waste that they generate will be under NRC regulations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any additional questions on the presentation? All right,
Public.
from the public, any questions?
Any
Um,
questions about the presentation? Yes.
Additional comments from the public?
We do have one public comment.
Yes, you always have one public comment, don't you, at least? And my name's Luther Gibson. I was chair of the board from 2002, and worked at Paducah and Oak Ridge from, well, retired in 2017. I've been on the board of directors of Coalition Oak Ridge Retired Employees since 2019. And I have a couple of questions now on the presentation, but I'm not expecting an answer here, and it's probably a Roger thing. I wanted to ask about the impact on water quality of the Wheeler, decision. That was a dispute, over who could set the radiological discharge criteria and what they were, how they compared to the circle risk standards, et cetera. I'm going to defer that to the committee, and Roger might be present, to answer it. It's pretty complicated. Then there's another thing I've always been interested in, and it was developed about 20 some odd years ago. University of Florida International developed the Waste Information Management System, or WIMS, and they do these nice disposition maps and things, and the system has not been well maintained. There's some data end up through the fourth quarter of 2024, and the disposition map, generated for Oak Ridge Reservation, DMWMF, only shows like 285,000 cubic meters, and that'd be 370,000 cubic feet, from 2025 through 2054. And then the EMD has not even been built into the application yet. What I've done on that is I've sent a question up to headquarters to Justin Marble, to see if he'll answer me on that. It's one of those things, a headquarters thing, the local sites, you may answer calls for daily things, but it's really getting out of hand there a little bit, and but it is a very useful tool. Okay, then my other comments. I also want to comment that the Environmental Management Advisory Board discontinuing it was terrible. So people, that's not the same board as this one, but it was a corporate board to advise, but it had been charged since 1992. It's just a terrible thing that it was disbanded. I've got a comment about the February presentation. The activities in general in February were a little underwhelming to me after being off 6 months, coming back and we get a presentation on how ORM communicates what wants the public to hear. And I insist that that's less priority to people like me than how we can engage on a deeper level. And I think the committee meeting that's held subsequent to the board meeting later in the month ought to have more quick updates on a number of projects, rather than just discussing that presentation and decide if you want to do a recommendation or not. Okay, and on this presentation, I've had a constructive criticism the last couple of years that it should also include assurance of access to the offsite facilities. And in my comment there, which you have, I went to that disposition map, and the facilities. I'm not going to read them all, but those facilities listed there are the ones that Oak Ridge Reservation sends to, according to the disposition map. That's probably pretty accurate, except for the volumes. So those are the places, at least, that are getting the waste. And then, of course, this doesn't include the transuranic stuff going to WIP. They do an annual, kind of a capacity assurance report. And it looks like from the 2025 report that they project the total waste volume, if everything's coming that they know of, to be right at 175,000 cubic meters, which is right at the Land Withdrawal Act capacity. That's in the report. I'm just quoting it. Then one of the more serious concerns I've got, though, is the operation of these new nuclear facilities at ETTP. It was recently announced that Standard Nuclear was one that wanted to come back under DOE authorization, facilitate the authorization of its process, and then bring leverage that, to get NRC approval and licensing later. Now, if you come back under DOE jurisdiction, it seems like you'll be under all the DOE orders and everything, including the emergency management order. And in 2022, DOE EM removed the hazards from ETTP that eliminated emergency planning zones of B, C, D, and E around the site there. So if you put new category 2 DOE nuclear facilities there, I've got the question whether you need to follow, the DOE order on emergency management and do the emergency planning hazard assessments and, put those things back in place. I'm somewhat of an expert in this because I did the emergency planning and hazard assessments for all the major nuclear facilities at 112. And I think from the materials there that they're, and the way they're analyzed under the emergency management order, that you're going to have some off-site consequences, need pre-planning. So I'm just raising that as a question. Thank you. And I think Eric is actually trying to contact someone in nuclear energy to get some clarification on this. It's kind of a new thing that's coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions that's been asked online? Ms. Shelley?
Let me double check. I did not have any, no questions online in the chat, and I have not seen anyone raise their hand.
But comments will continue to be accepted for this meeting till 5 o'clock on March 13th. Do we have any requests for new action items? Request. Our next meeting is going to be April the 8th, our next regular board meeting, April 8th at 6 o'clock. We have any additions?
No.
I need a motion.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn.
No.
Motion to approve the agenda, I'm sorry.
We can let our collected
Yeah.
experts depart if they wish to do so.
That ends our presentation portion of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Vestal.
Yeah.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
All members, please stay on so that we can do the officer elections. Now, don't leave. We need a quorum.
That's what I just said.
We lost Kenna. But I guess we still have a quorum.
We'll start our board business. First thing I believe is going to be officer elections.
Blake?
We've got the slate. You want to read that?
We have a slate as of date. The officer elections were announced in May 2025, and those expressing interest for the chair is Chris Bartholomew, and he's currently vice chair. The vice chair, Charles Moore, who's on my right. Secretary Kelly Thompson, there she is. And we have a quorum present. At this time, any member of the board can put themselves up for a position. But nobody who's not here can be put up without their consent. And any nominations from the floor?
Don't have any nominations.
Here you go. You take it from here, Chair. I'm not doing that. Robert and I don't get along.
We'll vote Chris Bartholomew for chair. Charles Moore for vice. Kelly Thompson as the secretary.
Paul, do you have a question?
No,
He was voting, I think.
I was voting.
Yay, Paul, thank you.
I was just keeping my hand up for the duration.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no further nomination. Motion to approve
Motion to approve the slate.
slated candidates.
Move it.
Okay, you have
Got
a,
a first and second.
Yeah.
Motion carries.
and I see, so all in favor of the slate?
The first and second motions.
Let's see. Give me a first and second again.
Motion to approve the slate.
So moved.
It's Paul, yeah. Second?
Second,
Harold.
Oh. All right, everybody in favor of approving the slate? Raise your hand. Raise your hand here and there.
Everyone.
The hands are
I'm
going
raising
up
my
like
hand.
balloons. They're balloons going up. I believe it is unanimous. Yeah, I think we could call it unanimous. Thank you. The voting on the screen is hilarious to watch.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that's a little bit different than has been previous.
Think,
These are,
for October,
yeah, October.
yeah.
All right. I believe I will turn it back to Ms. Hill for the DDFO's report,
Nothing at this time.
to report. The committee report, we really didn't have much to discuss. We talked about the member packets coming back like you've already heard. And Charles, you want to do the stewardship?
Yeah, so we really only talked about the previous meeting of going out for the outreach programs and moving forward with that.
Do we have any additions to the agenda? Again, we've got the March 19th tour. We'll be getting information on what, I guess, you'll need.
Do new members know about this yet?
The new members, unfortunately, I don't think that we can add them because it's late. I'm gonna try, but I haven't been able to do that since we just found out on,
And then one last thing about the EM stewardship, our next meeting is on March 25th. And I would definitely encourage all the new members here and online to definitely come and just see what it's like.
Yeah, come or attend online if you can't make the trip in.
And believe that will, yeah. Darren, I'll make a motion.
Motion.